about this. I purchased my house in August of 2011. I'm sorry. I purchased my house in August of 2011. I just found out about this. I actually didn't realize that there was a vote or anything had passed. I just received a flyer about this. I wanted to actually have some information on it, so I was hoping I could actually ask just a couple of questions, just to clarify and understand what is going to be performed.
We'll try to answer, but no matter what, you'll be on the record, and we can do the research if we don't have it.
To the best of your ability. Just the couple of questions I want to know are, is there going to be a tax increase, a property tax increase because of the sewage system?
Yes.
Property tax increase?
Is there going to be a property tax increase because of the sewage system?
Yes.
The property value, I guess that would be related to property values increasing because of sewer as opposed to septic.
No. That's for the infrastructure.
If there is an effect, my guess is it would be indirect. If your property is worth more when the appraisal looks at it with the sewer, and I would tend to think it would be. It probably would be. It wouldn't be. It would be some increase. I'm not sure. But I would tend to think a house generally is worth more if it is sewer than if it has a septic system.
I appreciate you gentlemen coming out here and taking your time with this. So I do want to get the answers. Now, who's going to be responsible for any property damage that is caused to our personal property while the installation of these sewer lines and any hookups or anything like that?
That would be the contract.
I believe it'd be the contractor.
Whoever's doing it would have to be bonded.
But would that contractor be an employee of the county? Would they be an employee of the state? Would they be like that's what I'm saying is I don't want my property insurance or my home's value affected by this sewer line. That's the question I'm asking.
I understand. Those things haven't been determined yet.
That's down the road. I would tend to think it would be put out for bid, and it would be. I don't think we have the wherewithal to put in those sewer lines. The county, not all of that. So it would probably be something that would be put out to bid, and the lowest qualified bidder would probably receive the contract.
One question I had: how old is your home?
My home was built in '71. It has a brand new septic tank.
Okay. Well, if it has a new septic system, and that's part of what I was talking about earlier, I was pretty adamant about it for a long time that this program, in order to be acceptable, financially acceptable, needed to have a hardship element in it for people truly that have a hardship. Not people that just don't want it, but people that can't really afford it. I would figure that out, and then basically a rebate program for people that have functioning, fairly new septic systems. At our discussion last week, we're looking at, and it's not locked in yet, looking back 10 years, possibly, to systems that are 10 years or newer, and providing some graduated scale of rebate, dollars back to help people on the journey.
If you don't mind, I'd like to interject some things here, because it's sort of, I think it helps us get a frame of reference, and then you can go ahead with your questions. When I first heard of the sewer thing, it was about 3 years ago, and there were 3 different meetings that were held, and one of the rooms had twice as many people as here now. I think that was the one that was out, either the one in Tree Galley or CCU, and then there was another one down by the swimming pool. And at that point in time, when those meetings ended, it was said that the cost would be estimated about $13,000 per home. I want to mention this because I heard Scott say $12,000 a few minutes ago. And in some of the discussions we've heard, and again, we have to deal, and like you guys, we have to turn over some rocks and get some information. I'm not sure you're a sewer expert. I know you're an civil engineer. I'm certainly not, but we're trying to get some information. And I'm going to just outline a few things that we've addressed. And again, we're under the frame of reference. You know, hopefully we don't screw anything up that the people that are on this commission 10, 15 years from now get sued for. But, you know, we have to deal with a lot of things that directly we're not responsible for. And it was my understanding that we were responsible for the agreement which committed us to put the sewers at 383, whatever. Going from that frame of reference, I want to enumerate some of the things that up to this...
I just had two more questions. and I want to answer before you go.
I want another minute here.
The commissioner has the floor.
I want to enumerate some of the things that were addressed that I understand. The cost originally was proposed at $13,000. The cost they're talking about now is, if it was a upfront payment, and this is all projected, is $7,800, not $10,000, not $12,000. The other issue that came up, Scott, the other issue that came up is someone said, well, what if I just put a new sewer in within the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, and I just spent a septic rather and paid the money to do that? We've come up with a plan where if you've had a new system put in, and I don't remember the exact years, we're trying to tweak it, but let's say if you put a system in the last 8 years, you would get a percentage, you would get a percentage credit all the way up to 100% if you put it in the last year or so. That's the second thing. The third thing is, well, what if you guys go ahead and approve this, and I have a system that's failing, and I'm in trouble now? We came up with another provision, we sort of call it like the Band-Aid approach, that the county will assist in maintaining your system, and again, assuming this moves ahead, till the sewers will be put in. And then we also came up with a fourth item, again, trying to address the concerns that we've heard expressed. And the next item is, what if someone is on a fixed income and they can't afford this, they don't have the money to do this? Again, we've developed a proposal which would suggest that if someone is in that type of situation, they're going to have a substantial reduction. So what I'm trying to say, and this is for the 5 of us on the commission, in the last several months, we've heard a lot of concerns, and one at a time we've tried to address them. And again, you have to remember, we're operating, and it may be proven wrong, but we've been operating, dealing with this, well, you got to put the sewers in, you're committed to do it, the county made an agreement, and even though it wasn't your commission, you guys have to stand behind it. So I wanted to share some of that, because that's part of the frame of reference. We learn something on this every day. This is an educational experience tonight as much as it is for you guys.
I understand that. Basically, I know everybody's fighting against this. I don't know enough about it to be on one side or the other. My next question is, who's going to be responsible for the septic tank disposal, the waste disposal? Who's going to be responsible for the individual costs to hook up to the sewer system to mine?
You are.
Because I'm not paying anything to anybody.
You want to answer that? It's my understanding that that was part, and the figure that was come up with, by the way, and was the $7,800, which is the relatively new figure. And people said, well, what if I can't afford to do that? And that's when they came up with the concept of a very low interest rate loan over 20 years. But let me finish.
I own my house outright. I'm not taking out a loan on my house.
Well, I didn't say take a loan out of your house. That's where the county would provide the upfront money at a low interest rate and over a course of 20 years. That's where the $10,000 or the $9,900, whatever figure came in. And again, that was to address some of the concerns that were brought up. Ken may want to comment on it. It's my understanding that those figures that were given included all the costs of putting the system in.
And that's my understanding too, is that if you're vacant lot, you'll have a certain assessment. If you've got an improved lot, the intent was basically turnkey. In other words, the contractor that's hired will effectively be responsible not only to put the system out in the right of way, but to come on the properties and take care of dismantling the septic system and redoing all that, making the connection to the home. That's my understanding about the scope of the program. Now, how that's done, we haven't seen the plan yet. I've asked for to see. As we've said, I have a background. The CCU has indicated that the drawings are about 60% complete. I want to see those. I want to see what that looks like, and I haven't seen that yet.
My only one other question, what is the penalty for refusal?
I don't know.
I want to know what the penalty will be for refusal.
The other questions we have, that's one I haven't heard before. I don't.
$9,000 lien against your house, that's what it'll cost you.
Yes.
Okay, we've got 11 minutes. This individual right here wants to speak.
Just very quickly, when you talk, I appreciate the fact that you want to do the rebate program, but doesn't that just increase the cost for everybody else?
The funding for the rebate, my understanding is, I've asked them to define that, where that money is coming from. We have not received the answer to that.
Right,
Same
again,
with the hardship.
I was at that meeting with the CCU director. Sorry, hang on, folks. I was at that meeting with the CCU director here, and you asked her that very question, and she didn't have an answer for you. How did she come to a
We haven't done
meeting?
that. That's one of the questions we've asked.
The 28th, Scott, the 28th, my understanding is we're supposed to get those answers that all of us, we had some questions. And those related to the hardship funding, where's the hardship money coming from? If we don't get the community development block.
Please tell them where the hardship money is coming from.
Right now, we don't know. Their intent the intent is that they're going to use community development block grants. Okay?
At that meeting, she said CCU was setting up a special fund for the hardship money. $500,000.
That's the rebate.
No.
No, that's not the hardship, it's the rebate, Scott.
Either way, that's our money.
Well, and the key is,
We pay that money.
we asked, where is that money, I asked, where is that coming from? Because right now, I don't have a satisfactory answer.
And I remember you asking her, saying you didn't think $500,000 was going to be enough.
I don't know that the number is correct, and I need to know the source of the money.
Right.
Scott, I'll tell you this, we've asked questions on our own, and there's at least 8 or 10 people in here that I've met with, including yourself. And when you guys have asked questions, and we don't have the answers, we've tried to get answers for them as well.
True.
Because,
I agree.
it's a learning experience for us as well. We're trying to get,
Right. But
Folks,
we're trying to get the answers just the same way you are. There's information that we haven't gotten yet either. You've been there when I raised the question?
let me ask you this, Commissioner. How is it possible that 2 years ago you had this project going in Port Charlotte Beach Harbor before I got here, okay, and 3 years ago, and all of these questions are the same questions that was asked at that time. How does the CCU director not have this information?
The biggest question at that time, as I recall, and I wasn't directly involved in the process, but the biggest question was the cost. That was the one big question, the $13,000. That was the big question.
And so what we want is we want all of the costs included. When you tell people $10,000, that's not the truth. The truth is it's going to be $10,000. You're going to double your water bills because you've got to pay for the water coming in and the water going out. We got a $30 to $50 million assessment for the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant. That has to be paid for. On and on. The routine maintenance, the broken sewer lines, the broken lift stations, all of these things that are going to expand the capacity of this system, which is already bursting because it's not managed properly, it's not being repaired properly. All of these costs need to be told to these people before you actually vote.
Right.
Amen.
Amen.
that through this budget process, and CCU is not the only department I'm looking at right now. Anything that has an engineering relationship, public works, CCU, community development, I'm really digging deep into cost and so forth. So that by the time I have to vote in September, I have more answers. Will we have all the answers on the 28th of May? No. We just won't have them all. It's just physically impossible.
Then how can you vote to put it through?
Yeah, how can you vote?
Let me propose, what it boils down to, we will have answers to a point. And what it boils down to is that the maximum rates are set at that point. And then what happens with any of these MSBUs or MSTUs or anything of that nature, they just can't go up anymore. They can go down. So the point of it is, it's kind of like a not to exceed is determined at this stage of the game, but we haven't actually voted on the final element of it until we get to that point in September.
Okay.
That's correct.
The gentleman in the second row said, oh, it's a done deal. It's not a done deal. If, and that's why we're still trying to get answers to the questions. We're still raising questions. It's not a done deal, and literally it wouldn't be a done deal until sometime in September, if it's going to be a done deal at all. That's why we're having this dialogue tonight.
Can I ask, if this is not a done deal, then why do I look out my front window and see CCU surveyors going up and down my street? And they tell us they're doing it for the sewers.
Okay, in order to have the option of doing the program, you have to have plans.
Oh, that's correct.
And you have to develop assessments. So that's the work that's going on, but
I understand that, Commissioner. We asked you a month ago that back in 1994, these taxpayers, long before I got here, in 1994, a $23 million bond was issued for engineering plans for the county for sewers. Okay, you guys have already paid $23 million for the plans. Now, why is CCU paying more money for engineering plans? I don't get it. This is $23 million. Back in 1994, this is real money.
Yeah, where's the money train?
Where are these engineering plans?
I don't know.
And what-
I'm sure they, I don't know.
So you want, this is the list of properties. I think it's pretty clear. People here are fed up with government officials telling us, I don't have the answer, I don't have the answer, I don't have the answer, but give me your money.
We've got 5 minutes. Does somebody else want to speak? Somebody else wants to
I
speak.
gotta, you know,
Scott, we gotta get, I
okay,
guess,
my last comment would be, I would like the commissioners to start to understand that we are your board of directors. You work for us, and what we
Yes.
want you to do
Yes.
is run this county like a business.
Yes.
Okay? Every single dollar is important. Every single
That's right.
dollar.
let me use the analogy, actually. I look at you folks as being the shareholders, the owners.
That's correct. We are.
You've elected us to be on the board of directors.
Correct. That's right.
You guys are the owners. It's your money.
Yeah, right.
And what I'm trying to do is be a good steward of that, personally, okay? So I understand the relationship, I understand where the owners are, who the owners are. It's not my money, it's not the county's money, it's your money. So I understand that part, but we're trying to do a good job. But I'm not going to tell you something if I don't have the answers, Scott.
I know you're not.
And I'm working on a lot of these.
I appreciate
We gotta get this gentleman.
But I can tell you, as I've managed businesses and I have managers coming to me in my meetings and they don't have the answers that they knew about, that the meeting was coming a month in advance and they don't have the answers, this wouldn't work, he wouldn't work for me. So that's it.
So,
You've had a chance, I don't know if you've had a chance to, when you talk about certain departments and department heads, you need to research if you haven't done it, and look at the charter, look at the county charter, and you'll understand what our role is in local government versus the role of the executive branch.
I understand.
Okay? So there's things we can do, things we can't do, okay?
Right, and we had budgets of $1.2 billion
Scott, we only have a
years
couple
ago.
people left.
So,
Scott.
you know, the problem, I'll finish up. The problem is that you guys are trying to do too much and do the wrong things. And we need to limit the size of our government and not continue to expand it. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much, folks.